My name is Christopher King, and I'm the founder of the Gentleman's Course. We teach etiquette, human rights, and human trafficking awareness to co-ed youth. Human trafficking has been going on for a very long time.
It's a crime happening across the country, modern-day slavery where kids are sold for sex. Pimps using tactics new and old, selling child prostitutes on the street, ages ranging from 14 to 17.
Young girls are often lured by promises of gifts, sometimes even recruited by kids their own age who are also being exploited. Advocates say the victims they see are getting younger and younger.
Human trafficking is real. You're talking about kids being sold, traded, forced labor against their own will. No one should be a slave, and no one has the right to enslave anyone. It's simple. Truly, if people knew the power of knowing their rights, they would know what to defend. So how do we stop human trafficking? That is the purpose. That's our goal. I was born in Dallas, Texas, the grandson of B.B. King. But I'm not a child or a product of a silver spoon lifestyle. My father was abusive. He would beat my mom. He would take the money from where she worked just to buy drugs. My mother finally got the nerve to leave him. So we went on a run. Running from city to city and shelter to shelter, across from Dallas, state to state. Finally made our way to Savannah. So as I grew and went through those trials and tribulations in life, it was rough. I became very dismissive, disruptive, even belligerent. I found myself going and becoming this troubled youth. I learned how to cook cocaine and turn it into crack. I learned how to cut it. I learned how to bag up weed. November 5th, 2001 is the day I got caught. The judge said, "Chris, do you know what you're looking at? I could literally give you life right now, and you're 19 years old." We just stood there and looked at each other for 5 minutes. I just dropped my head because I knew what was coming. The judge said, "Charges dropped, case dismissed." He used the First Offenders Act. He said, "Chris, you're a free man, but it has conditions. Because of the severity of the charge, you gotta leave Savannah immediately." So when I moved to Florida, it forced me to re-educate myself and figure out and find my purpose. Watching my grandfather, he was my mentor. He truly helped instill those foundations of turning me into a gentleman. I would do things naturally just to help people. General kindness. Attending community events in support of various causes. They started to call me the Gentleman of Tampa. Organizations would invite me to events. They were focused around raising awareness for human trafficking. Attending these gave me the initiative to want to help them more in raising awareness for their cause. Here is a place where people are prone for being targeted and taken without knowledge or against their means. There's no one out walking the streets patrolling these dark areas that kids can wander into, or people can be lurking, potential violators, ready to take a person. Human trafficking is the ability to take a person against their own will, to put them in an element for forced labor, sex slaves, repaying a debt for somebody else. I had a manager, a business manager at the time, and she took me down to Clearwater. We got a tour through the United for Human Rights building. Reviewed public service announcements. We looked at the booklets, also the educator kits. That helped give me a guide to actually learn how to educate the youth. After seeing all this vital information, it helped me realize that I needed to start something. And at that point, I founded the Gentleman's Course. So in the Gentleman's Course, we talk about fashion, fashion accessories, table manners, as well as human rights and anti-human trafficking efforts. As a gentleman, you want to make sure you're properly dressed. For a man, he needs general slacks, a blazer, dress shirts, accessories with embody, pocket squares, ties, or bow ties. Outside of the attire and proper attire, your dinner and your table manners, we also incorporate human rights education. Educating them shows them that they have a choice and the power, not only to protect themselves, but protect other people. The human rights portion helps give a guide to why all these elements flow by respecting an individual, but more so respecting yourself. This is how you become a gentleman. Welcome. In 2018, we started out as a community organization because initially we wanted to reach those affected, the actual survivors of human trafficking, those disadvantaged youth, those troubled youth. We saw it as an avenue to be able to use the instructional method of etiquette, human rights, and human trafficking to rehabilitate them. And yes, table mannerism is very important because that's how you represent yourself. These are your rights. You were born with them. They were written, documented, published by the United Nations in 1948. Then we actually educate them on how people are being targeted, showing them that social media is an avenue. Kids their age are being used to actually lure them in various situations. He came to her house, picked her up, had a car, they're going to the movies. She didn't look in the car. They met on Instagram. Soon as she got in the car, black bag went over her face because she got in the front seat, didn't look in the back seat. She gone. 7 days going to Orlando, kidnapped. They learned, they participated. They saw change within themselves and the ability to find a way on how to change.
King's main focus is on the youth, to make sure that the youth knows that there's a better way to do things than just the streets.
My daughter was almost a victim of human trafficking. The kids don't know that, okay, I do have the right to actually speak, or I do have the right, to know this. What King is doing to push that information into our youth so that they're aware, then they know what to look for, then they know how to answer, then they know how to proceed when it comes to their rights being violated.
For me, I didn't even realize I was a victim of sex trafficking until I came out. If I knew these things when I was 14, 15, 12, 10, it might have changed my view of myself and how I want to be portrayed, how I want to be treated, and I believe that that's a big part of the human rights movement period, as far as knowing our rights as human beings and how we can help other people as well.
When we founded the Gentleman's Course, we had the initiative to just be a community organization. We had a plan, but as we were hosting the courses, we found that we were lacking the ability to really truly reach as many youth as possible, not just survivors. But what about the other kids? So after the success of the program and its launching, we decided to take the program, highlighting etiquette, human rights, human trafficking awareness throughout high school, middle school, and elementary schools across the region. Human traffickers, those violators, they're not taking any breaks. They're in the school, they're on social media. They're getting the kids on their platform and where they are, so we might as well attack them on the same ground. We found a school in Pasco County, and the school resource officer and the assistant principal, they were all on board.
Virtual everybody. So I'm thinking about having these as topics. Really appreciate it. And you know how to reach it. Absolutely.
And we delivered the program to 62 kids. It took us about an hour and a half. We showed public service announcements, as well as going over table manners, appearance, and the 30 human rights. Now, it was funny because the assistant principal and the school resource officer attended the class with us as we delivered, but the school resource officer didn't just observe. At some point, he actually joined in and not be an observer, but a participant in the course that day. It was funny because he was raising his hand, he was answering questions. He was like, I knew that, I did that. But things he did not know, he would acknowledge. I did not know that. Wow, that's gonna help me out. You know, the school resource officer was like, where have you been all my life? And I've been a school resource officer for 25 years, and nobody's doing this or has done this in the schools. Durant High School was a school that we chose simply because we found traumatic experiences were relevant at this school. We spoke to about 130 youth. They were very engaged. You know, I had the pleasure of actually speaking to a young man. He spent the whole day helping us set up and break down, but while doing that, he attended the class. He actually came and told me that he had been through a traumatic experience personally himself, and the visit that day and the knowledge and information that we had went through helped him overcome that traumatic experience. It helped him begin to resolve an issue. We had an opportunity to incorporate one of our volunteers, one of our youth who had a traumatic experience herself. She was able to be vocal. She taught the class. She spoke on their language, but to see her progress and be able to give the class, that was special. Seeing them want to be future leaders, future humanitarians, future educators of human rights. We try to engage with the kids directly on their level, speaking their language so we get their focus. The kids we're trying to reach with the gentleman's course is literally all youth. There is no specific age demographic. We want to be able to get in, educate them, because they are all potential victims in human trafficking. You gotta know what they are. How can you have the rights if you don't know what they are? We had the pleasure of going to 2 schools in one day. How you dress is a part of etiquette. Who ever heard the phrase, dress your best? We spoke to over 400 youth that day. A humanitarian is a person who does good for others without expecting anything in return. Do I have any humanitarians in the room? So many kids in one room, and they're ecstatic. I mean, they were shouting from the time they came in as they were participating. We saw the change was relevant. Once we were done, the youth not only got their booklets, but they also asked for more booklets. We focus on being able to create individuals that not only will be able to be positive role models in our future society, they're the ones that are going to change our future. So we must put in proper knowledge to change our youth.
When I came in the classroom and he was just like, hey, good morning, everyone. And he just had like his energy was up there. Like, he made me want to answer his questions. It made me want to, participate.
And I like he went over human trafficking because that is a serious issue, especially in Florida because we are number 3. And a lot of people here don't take that seriously.
Makes me feel like the world can actually be a better place to live in, with people being more informed. So